What's going on, everybody? Happy Monday. Welcome to another edition of Mean Streets right here on FTN Network. Chris Meany hanging out with you. Not one, but two Monday night football games tonight. Yes, if you're watching on our YouTube page, smash the like button. You have any comments, any questions, you can leave them there. We'll address them here on the show. Always circling back on these videos as well. In case you are listening on iTunes or Spotify and you have a question, you can hop on over to our FTN Network YouTube page. Subscribe, please. Smash that like button. Leave the question there under this video in the comment section, or you can reach out on the Twitter machine. Are they even calling it Twitter these days? X at Chris Meany or Mean Streets FTN at gmail.com. We're going to break down the two Monday night football games here off the top very, very soon. Some picks and some props for those games as well. Fun little same game parlay. We had some success yesterday with some same game parlays. Props been tough. Like, not going to lie. I feel like no excuses, but I feel like we've been on the wrong side of a few that have been a little unlucky. Like one more yard from DJ Moore yesterday, one more yard from Zay Flowers. It is what it is. We'll hope to finish the week here strong with those two Monday night football games. We have some waiver wire rankings, wide receivers and running backs. Going to take a look at quarterback streams, defense streams. And I feel like this week in particular, maybe the next show, probably Wednesday. I've been doing Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays. Thursday to tee up the Thursday night football games, some start and sit stuff. Fridays, the props and the picks for the weekend and some DFS stuff. I think I got to do an episode on Wednesday. Tomorrow, we're going to have Dangle Betselli. Hockey season's around the corner. Draft Kit going to be live over at FTN Fantasy tomorrow morning. Rankings, sleepers, busts, breakouts, all that stuff. Going to talk about it tomorrow on Dangle Betselli. But I think Wednesday, we're going to have some sort of buy low, sell high segment. We could maybe do that on Thursday as well. 3 weeks is a good sample size, in my opinion, for data. We have a lot of data and a lot of things that I want to share with you guys. Pace of play. Who's playing at a quick pace? What's the pass percentage and rush percentage? Like, for example, Houston is near the top in terms of pass percentage. Heading into week 2, the Vikings were number 1, 72% of the time in a neutral game script, game within 8 points. They were throwing the football 72% of the time. The Texans right behind them. CJ Stroud looks awesome, in my opinion. I don't want to take any shots at Bryce Young. I already took the L. I thought CJ Stroud was going to be the first overall pick. Not going to lie. Bet that probably a little heavier than I should have. And it was not CJ Stroud, but he is, the only rookie quarterback at the moment that is playing. Anthony Richardson has looked good as a running quarterback. Not sure he's going to be ready to go next week. I would imagine if he is, they're going to go to him. Certainly Andy Dalton, everybody inside that offense is good when Andy Dalton is under center. And again, no shots at Bryce Young. I just don't think he's completely ready just yet. We saw a big game from Adam Thielen, DJ Chark, Miles Sanders had like 9 targets or something silly like that. But CJ Stroud looks good, like almost to the point where maybe we should be thinking about him as a starting quarterback, top 12, top 15. This past week was the highest I've had him ranked, and I think it was still only 18 or 19, passing a lot. Tank Dell looks like a player. Robert Woods doesn't have a high ceiling, but he's a nice safety valve. With Nico Collins' worst game, that game got out of hand. Jacksonville, I think we have to be concerned at the moment for Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence, Daniel Jones, certain quarterbacks out there that I'm willing to maybe move on from and get myself involved with some of these other quarterbacks. We'll take a look at some streamers and things like that. There's a lot here to get to. Right off the hop, I want to say what up to everybody. Deesh, welcome in. Kelly, oh man, yes. Got to feel bad for Mike Williams. Unfortunately, he is lost for the season. And our guy Lutess is in here. Welcome in. That was the biggest injury, man. 2 weeks in a row now, right? We lost Nick Chubb for the season, lose Mike Williams for the season. Tough blow. He's had a tough career, really. Going back to his Clemson days, he suffered a fractured vertebrae in Clemson, and then the injuries have piled up for him over his short course of the career. I mean, he's just so good. He had another great game yesterday, and Kelly isn't great. No, not at all. I did not like that 4th and 2. Staley is aggressive. He's going to do these things, but I didn't really like that play call. Like, if you're going to do it, fine, go for it. But what are you doing? Like, running it up the gut with Kelly there? Like, put the game on Herbert's arm. That's what I would do. It was a weird week. Are you still hanging around in Survivor? Luckily, I took KC, but Dallas lost, Baltimore lost, Jacksonville lost. So it was a bloodbath for a lot of people out there in terms of Survivor. But I want to get after tonight with some picks and some props. We'll do some waiver wire stuff here in just a few minutes. I got rankings at running back and wide receiver. How about Miami putting up 70 points? 70 points, the most since 1966. The speed from Devon Achane, Raheem Mostert, Tyreek Hill, Waddle's not even on the field. And at the moment, we have Tua Tagovailoa, who is the clear-cut favorite to win the MVP. These odds from DraftKings, Tua at plus 380. Tyreek Hill sitting there at 50-1. It's usually a quarterback award. We know this. The season that Cooper Kupp had a couple of years ago wasn't good enough for him to get the award. Patrick Mahomes at 7-1, Jalen Hurts at plus 850, Josh Allen at plus 850, Lamar Jackson 15-1. Saw some more designed runs from Lamar Jackson, the 2 rushing touchdowns for him. Justin Herbert at 16-1. Brock Purdy's in there at 16-1 as well. Trevor Lawrence 22, Dak Prescott 22, Deshaun Watson at 28. Cut off here is Christian McCaffrey at 40-1, Micah Parsons at 40-1, Jared Goff at 45, Tyreek Hill at 50, excuse me. Looking at Micah Parsons, he's had certainly a hell of a season. He would have to, he would have to be awesome the whole way, and he certainly can be. And I would think the quarterbacks would just have to be mediocre for, to see a defensive player get MVP. But he is the favorite at the moment to win Defensive Player of the Year. TJ Watt is plus 380, Myles Garrett at plus 380. Both of those guys, Watt and Garrett having really strong starts to the season as well. And then we have for Offensive Player of the Year, Tyreek right there, CMC right there. Those guys are right near the top. As for Offensive Rookie of the Year, Bijan Robinson at plus 330. We have Anthony Richardson at plus 450 and CJ Stroud at plus 450 as well. I think the guy to maybe take a shot on here for this board for MVP. Mahomes at 7-1. You may not even, that may be the last time you get a number like that at 7-1. Jalen Hurts has struggled so far to start the season. He does have a couple rushing touchdowns. These things are going to happen when he has dud games through the air. He's, make up for it with his legs at plus 850 is a decent little dart throw. How about Brock Purdy there at 16-1? What if this 49ers team just runs the table? I know their schedule is a little bit tougher moving forward, but if the Niners are, they rattle off 14 wins, and Brock Purdy is still undefeated throughout the regular season over the course of his career. He's 9-0. He was 6-0 last year, 9-0 as a starter in the regular season. I know last year doesn't mean anything, but this is kind of a trend that I think we really need to pay attention here. 2 passing touchdowns in every single game, but 1 in the regular season. He's surrounded by so much talent, right? CMC is going to have big games. Debo just had a big game. Brendan Ayuk, George Kittle. The play calling is phenomenal with Kyle Shanahan. The defense is legit. So I think that as we get deeper and deeper into the season, the Niners play the Cardinals this week. I know they had a big game against Dallas and they won that game. I think Dallas just is typically what the Cowboys do, right? They always lose a game or two in the regular season that, people think that they should win. They just had one of those games. It's any given Sunday, right? But Brock Purdy at 16-1. If he has another good game this week against Arizona, where I believe they're 14-point favorites, he tosses 3 or 4 touchdowns. Maybe he then jumps up to 10-1. So I think on this board, just looking for a long shot, and it's not that long at 16-1. I like Brock Purdy, and I still like Mahomes at 7-1. But what Tua is doing right now, and with the offense in Miami, it's 70 points is really tough to imagine anybody. I just never seen it. Like, there'd be teams in the NBA that don't even score 70 points this season. Wicked stuff, man. A lot of speed. Devon Achane, we're going to talk about him in just a little bit, but I wanted to bring those odds to your attention. But as for Offensive Rookie of the Year, Puka Nacua at plus 750, I think that's pretty good odds. Like 35 targets, 25 catches in 2 games. We're unsure about Cooper Kupp. We think that he's going to come back and he's going to be ready to go. He'll be eligible week 5, but maybe this is something that's going to linger with Cooper Kupp. Last year, he missed half the season, suffered the injury, had the setback, thought he was good to go, had a second opinion on the hamstring. Maybe he just misses a bunch of time this year. Matthew Stafford looks healthy. if Cooper Kupp is going to catch 100 balls as a rookie, and he's on pace for well over that, and I think it's a number he may just get to, especially if Cooper Kupp isn't ready to go, that number will go away. So plus 750 for Cooper Kupp. Flowers is 10-1. A-Chain's 10-1. Tank Dell's 15-1. Jameer Gibbs, Jordan Addison also 15-1. So there's your award races here to start off the show. Let's get after tonight. We'll start with the Rams and the Bengals. Cincinnati at home, 3-point favorites. The game total is at 45. It does sound like Joe Burrow is going to play tonight. There's some optimism, according to reports, that he is going to suit up and play this football game. I've heard all kinds of conflicting reports, anywhere from being out to being placed on IR or the other, suiting up here tonight. If you have Joe Burrow, we've talked about a backup plan. I have a couple leagues with Joe Burrow. I didn't drop him. I picked up Matthew Stafford, and I think I'm still going to start Matthew Stafford over Joe Burrow. Burrow doesn't look right. The offensive line is not fantastic. We know that. Yes, he can have a pop ceiling game. I mean, this is why he was arguably the 5th quarterback off the board, right? He's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. So he could easily have a game-changing performance. But if you need, I don't know, 15 fantasy points tonight, I'd probably lean with Matthew Stafford. If you need 25, 30 fantasy points tonight to get the W, I'd probably roll the dice on Joe Burrow. I think the ceiling is higher for him, but Matthew Stafford right now looks healthy. He's throwing the football a lot, not just to Puka Nacua, Tutu Atwell. Kyron Williams had 10 targets last week, and Tutu Atwell played nearly 100% of the snaps last week ahead of Nacua. So right now he looks like the better quarterback, clearly. I don't know if anybody's in that sort of situation. For me, like I said, I am going to roll out Matthew Stafford, but I think if you're looking for the ceiling, it may be Joe Burrow, because we know that he has the higher ceiling of the two. I think I'm still pretty confident saying that, even though we don't have a healthy Joe Burrow at the moment. Jamar Chase would be in my lineup no matter what. I think he's quarterback proof. No matter who the quarterback is, he hasn't had any really great moments in the first couple of weeks with Joe Burrow. T. Higgins had the donut in week 1, had a good week 2. Chase and T. Higgins have really good matchups tonight. I think the toughest out of all the wide receivers would be Mike Evans, according to our wide receiver quarterback matchup tool. Going to see Darius Slay. And it does sound like, according to reports, James Bradbury is going to play some slot nickel corner. Avonte Maddox is done for the season. Going to focus in on Chris Godwin. Has been lining up wide at times, but in 11 personnel, this is a guy that I expect to play in the slot. They can move around Mike Williams as well. Baker's done a good job of avoiding pressure, avoiding sacks. This is a guy over the course of his career. I'm getting sidetracked. I'm talking about both games, but over the course of his career, he's a guy that's really struggled with pressure in his face. But so far this year, he's confident with his throws, and anticipation throws are there for him so far. He's hitting Mike Evans touchdowns in the first 2 games. He's hitting Chris Godwin, and I don't expect either team to have success running the football. The Eagles have been good against the run over the past couple of years. The Bucs have been good against the run over the past couple of years. So I think we will see the quarterbacks kind of air it out. Philly, their identity is to run the football, and their offensive line can create some holes here. DeAndre Swift's rushing prop is at 37.5. We have him for 62 rushing yards. Seems like a pretty big edge. It's a stay away from me, but he looked real good last week, didn't he? Like a $175. And the way that the offensive line can create some holes, I would lean to the over. I think he's going to be the starter tonight. I think he's going to get more carries than Kenneth Gainwell, but they're going to ride the hot hand in Philadelphia. That could be the play here. So I do have a couple picks and some props. I want to start here with actually a same game parlay. So I said I was starting with the Rams, but we're obviously talking about both games here. Props, not so great, but we did hit a couple winners over at FTM Bets yesterday. A couple same game parlays from Bet365. This one here, 11-1. Justin Jefferson. I mean, everybody in the game hit. I had another one at 30-1 where I had the 2 quarterbacks for 2 passing touchdowns. Justin Jefferson, 5+ receptions and 75 receiving yards. Keenan Allen had a monster day, 20 targets, threw a touchdown, 18 catches, 5+ grabs, 50+ receiving yards. Mike Williams, 5 and 50+ receiving yards. Jordan Addison just got there, 50 receiving yards. And TJ Hawkinson, our guy here on the show, we can talk about that, right? We hold ourselves accountable, but we can say, listen, we're only 3 weeks in, but TJ Hawkinson looks like he is on his way to finishing as maybe the tight end 2 I know Kelsey missed a little bit of time, and he's going to catch up to him. But Hawkinson is the number one tight end in football at the moment. He continues to get a lot of targets and a lot of looks dating back to the day that the Vikings acquired him from the Lions last year. The over 5.5 catches hit pretty easily for us, plus money. So we had that in there. And then a late night action of Devontae Adams was a baller last night. What's Josh McDaniels doing? What's he doing? Kicking that field goal. 4th and short, whatever. It was manageable. You're down 8. Like, what are you doing? Oh, you need another touchdown. Well, no, you didn't. You needed a touchdown and a 2-point conversion to tie the game. Yeah, you'd need some points later on, but what are you doing? Adams, 5+ receptions, 50+ receiving yards. Pickens, 3 and 50. Warren, 2 and 16.5. Najee Harris had some moments last night, but again, he just, when they gave him the ball to run out the clock, I noticed that he was trying to break tackles when really he should have just went down and keep that clock running. And they took him off the field and they put Jaylen Warren in immediately after. Jaylen Warren is knocking on the door. He is knocking on the door, and it's really close to a straight up timeshare. The snaps, I have them written down here in front of me. What do we got here? Harris 50 and Warren 45. So it is getting really, really close. Pretty much a timeshare at the moment. Najee's getting the first and second carries. Warren's coming on the field, kind of like a change of pace at the moment and third down opportunities. But he does look like the quicker back. And Harris and Zeke, and I know Zeke had some carries, but I'm not buying into that. Mixon, I think tonight we'll see him, get leaned on a little bit. These guys look pretty slow, right? They look slow. And I don't know if there's anybody in Cincinnati that's going to overtake Joe Mixon, but certainly Jaylen Warren is a real threat to steal opportunities. And I talked about him as a buy low candidate. I wanted to see it this week against the Raiders was a good matchup. Next week against the Texans is also a really good matchup. If he struggles in that matchup again, heading into the bye week, it's tough. I think actually now, if anybody was calling to try to get Najee Harris from you, I'd pick up and I'd listen and I'd certainly consider it. So for tonight, we have a same game parlay, seeing if we can keep this trend going here. Also from Bet365, AJ Brown at over 4.5 catches. AJ Brown, a lot of these are just too juice to take as singles. AJ Brown at 4.5 catches. This doesn't have anything to do with last week and, being frustrated on the sidelines with Jalen Hurts. It really doesn't. In fact, that conversation had nothing to do with targets. They both spoke about that after. They're both competitive. I like seeing that stuff on the sidelines. I don't want to see anybody freak out. You don't want to see the athletes freak out and, kicking things and talking, give me the ball, give me the ball, give me the ball. But these guys are competitive, man. They want the ball. When there's a mismatch, AJ's going to let Jalen know about it. So over 4.5 grabs, I think he's going to get targeted early and often. He does have the better matchup of the two between Devontae Smith and AJ Brown. Mike Evans is going to see Darius Slay, but I like the over 3.5 catches. He's a big play guy. So the receiving yards are also interesting to me, but I wanted to go with the over 3.5 catches. I think they can move him around a little bit. Chris Godwin at 4+ grabs. So in Bet365, you could do these milestones. That's how we did the Chargers and the Vikings players. There's like a milestone tab where you can do 2+ catches, 3+, 4+, 25+ yards, 50, 75, 100. So I was just taking Godwin 4 instead of over 4.5. I would lean with the over 4.5, but we want a winner here. So I went down a little bit. You could do Mike Evans at 3+ or 4+. I'm comfortable with the 4+. As I said, I think the Eagles will be able to stop the run. And I think Godwin and Evans will get 4+ grabs. And Cade Otton. Cade Otton's kind of my sneaky little guy here. Our prop shop is showing 2.5 across the board. Oh, there is a 3.5 at +135. But most of the catch props for Cade Otton, like Unibet, -167, 2.5. Bet Rivers, -167. Bet365, 175. You can't take that as a single. It's too tough. Like, if you're going to get involved with that 2.5, it has to be, and I think that's why books hang the -190. Like, who's betting that? They want you to do a same game parlay or some sort of parlay, so it'll screw your ticket out. But I'm all right with like if it's juice, like a catch and a receiving prop. For example, tonight you could do maybe Cade Otton over 2.5 and over 25.5 receiving yards. the 25.5 receiving yards as a solo is minus 117. If you include both, because if he catches 3 passes, I think he's going to flirt with the 26 receiving yard number. We have him projected for roughly 30 receiving yards. And just following trends here, again, with the Eagles, week 1, what did we see? Hunter Henry, touchdown. He went 5 for 61 and a touchdown. What do we see week 2? TJ Hawkinson, 7, 66, and 2 touchdowns. I get it. Those tight ends are better than Cade Otton. I think Cade Otton's actually a pretty good tight end. I think he's sneaky good. And last week we saw him 6 targets, 6 grabs, and 41 receiving yards. The Eagles all year long are going to struggle in the middle of the field. This is why they're doing this with Bradbury. This isn't what Bradbury does. I don't know how comfortable he is. I don't know how quick he is to kind of hang with Chris Godwin there in the slot. But this is what they're doing because there is a massive hole in the middle of the field. So when CJ Gardner-Johnson left last year and Avonte Maddox, right? Like CJ Gardner-Johnson left in the offseason, big gap to fill. And Avonte Maddox, decent little player, but he's lost for the season as well. So I think Cade Otton is very, very sneaky tonight. So again, with that same game parlay, we're going to go with A.J. Brown at over 4.5 grabs, Mike Evans at over 3.5 or 4+. You know, if it's 4.5, don't take the over 4.5. Just go into the milestones, go 4+. Chris Godwin, 4+. Cade Otton, over 2.5 receptions. So that is where I'm at tonight. In fact, there's not a lot of single props that I like in the game. I think everybody is just too juiced. You can't take AJ as a single. I would lean Devontae Smith as a single and Godwin as a single. You can get, I think Godwin has moved. Let's just check. Prop Shop is your friend, guys. A Google search. I know I say it all the time. 4.5 minus 162. You can't do it. 5.5 plus 125. I would lean to the over on that one, but I think we'll have maybe some fun with some same game parlays if you can do that. Touchdowns tonight. This is what I'm thinking. Jalen Hurts at plus 135 for a touchdown. It's just when they get near the goal line, it's him. It's that tush push. It's just it's an undefeated play. It's the biggest lock in sports. Nobody can stop it, right? They're going to end up changing this rule where you can't do it next year. AJ Brown with the touchdown at plus 140. Kyron Williams has 4 touchdowns in 2 games at plus 100. And then Cade Otton would be my sneaky little play here at plus 425. If Bradbury and Slay are doing work against Evans and Godwin, we really could see Baker Mayfield lead on Cade Otton. And I think he's going to lean on Rachaad White catching some balls out of the backfield as well. Cade Otton, that number at plus 425 is from Bet365. I just wanted to look actually what he was for like a first-time touchdown. I think it'd be pretty decent for him. First touchdown, little sprinkle. Tight ends used to be like 45 to 1. I joined Pat yesterday and we were talking about that. Times have just changed. 25 to 1 over at BetMGM for Cade Otton for the first touchdown. And there's a big difference here. Caesars is 13 to 1, DK is 15 to 1, Bet Rivers is 20 to 1, but BetMGM is the best price out there at 25 to 1. I think the Bucs cover. The 5, I think they cover. I think it's going to be a field goal game. Still not sold at Philly's offense. It hasn't looked good. You know, like got back to their true identity last week against the Vikings and ran the football. The Bucs have some players on defense. They can stop the run. They get some good players and, you know, road game. Tampa's playing well. Baker's playing well. I think it's going to be a field goal game. I think Philly squeaks it out, but I think right now I am leaning with that's where I'm at. I've already picked it in my pool. Plus 5. Plus 5.5. It's now 5. See some 4.5s out there. I think 5 is a play. Over to the Rams. This one is pretty obvious. We're doing this, right? This morning over at FDMBets.com, put in over 5.5 catches at minus 136. It was a 2-unit play for me, and it quickly moved. I'll give you some live odds on what it is now because times have changed since we got put together this show. I don't know if there's even a plus 100 out there anymore because I know people were definitely hammering that 5.5 and the number moved. There's no more 5.5s. I am seeing over at Bet365 plus 100 for 7 grabs for Puka Nacua, 25 catches and 35 targets. I'm not saying he's Cooper Kupp, but he is playing the Cooper Kupp role. He is playing that role. He's a great route runner. Stafford is clearly leaning on him. He has the trust of Matthew Stafford. Sean McVay is a hell of a play caller as well. Had him as a top 12 wide receiver in the rankings this week. He's got a top 10 wide receiver cornerback matchup against Hilton this week. This is it's just really hard to ignore what he is doing at the moment. I would ladder this up, like have some fun with 7+ catches, 8, 9+ catches. I don't think he's just going to roll out and have 11, 12 catches every single week. But what we've seen so far is the guy is hard to stop. So Puka Nacua at plus 100. It would just be a 1 unit play for me. The 5.5 is gone. I wanted the 5.5 of the 2 units, but that is gone. Obviously 6 is better than 7, but I still think he is going to flirt with this number. And I'm not just giving you that for the sake of giving it to you. So I'm over on the 6.5 catches. And I like Tutu Atwell as well at plus 120 here at over 4.5 grabs. I think, same thing. Matthew Stafford is throwing the football. He's leaning on his guys, and it's not Tyler Higbee, right? I thought Tyler Higbee would get a ton of volume. It's 70+ grabs last year. I thought he was going to be the guy this year. It's not Van Jefferson either. And Tutu Atwell is the guy that led all wide receivers last week against the Niners in snaps. 2 games for Tutu Atwell. 8 targets, 6 grabs, 119 receiving yards, 9 targets, 7 grabs, and 77 receiving yards. So that's 17 targets in 2 games. He's got the 13 grabs, just shy of 200 yards, 95% of the snaps last week. So I'm in on Tutu Atwell as well. And then one more from this game before we move on from tonight, because I am staying clear of the Bengals altogether. When I hear word about Burrow, if he's playing, then I may get involved with, I think it's T. Higgins. I may get involved with T. Higgins. I would lean on a Jamar Chase anytime touchdown. I'd put him into that group as well. Hurts, AJ, Kyron, Cade. And I would rank them probably AJ, Hurts, Kyron. Cade's a dart throw. Kind of feeling him, but it's a little bit of a dart throw. And then Jamar. I would actually go AJ, Kyron, Jamar, Jalen, and then Cade Otton. But Kyron Williams in here again. This is another guy that I just don't think that we can ignore. He played nearly 100% of the snaps in his first game without Cam Akers. He had 14 carries, 10 targets, and 6 grabs for 48 receiving yards. His receiving yard prop, I think, is at 23.5. We have him just over that in our projections. We have him for 3.2 catches, but we have him 3.5 catches, excuse me. But I'm going to take a shot on this. Plus money. Stafford, man, when he gets leaning on a guy, this is a guy who just continues to lean on somebody. Doug Baldwin, by the way, was that guy last week when I was trying to think of all the wide receivers. I mean, Calvin Johnson and Cooper Kupp are in a tier of their own, but Doug Baldwin, Marvin Jones, these are guys that he is just like, when he is feeling it and he sees a rapport or mismatch, it's just all day. And Stafford's still a really good quarterback. He hasn't been healthy the past little bit. So he's healthy at the moment. And Sean McVay is still one of the better play callers in the NFL. I think certainly Mike McDaniel's knocking on the door like, oh, buddy, like, man, that was fun to watch last night. Denver, my goodness. Anyone see? I tweeted it out earlier. There's like 7 Broncos all over the field trying to tackle Devon A-Chain, where they have just no business. They can't even tackle them. That was embarrassing on the Denver side of things. And Miami could have easily. They had 70 points with 8 minutes left. And they could have kicked a field goal near the end of the game. Didn't want to rub it in. Should have won for the record, in my opinion. Just rub it in. Sean Payton, I think you may deserve a little bit of that. All right, so this is where I'm at. Bucks +5, Rams +3. I think this is going to be a tight game as well. Does sound like Joe Burrow is going to suit up, but the Rams are playing pretty good football. If there's a must-win tonight from a team, it's definitely on the Cincinnati Bengals side of things. But Joe Burrow is clearly not 100%. All right, what do we got here? We got some questions. We got some stuff here. We'll get into this, and then we got some waiver wire rankings I wanted to share with you guys as well. We got to talk Joshua Palmer or Quentin Johnson. I got some running back stuff, and I actually have one more baseball. I have a baseball pick too. Maybe we'll save that. I know people are in here for some football. There's only a couple games here tonight. Free article over at ftmbets.com. There is a couple props I like for this evening's slate. Okay. What do we got? Let's start here with Zeesh. Also dropped A-Chain for Spears. Henry Hancock for me. Big sad about it. You know what? Spears is another guy that's knocking on the door. There are some big time problems in Tennessee. I was certainly wrong about that game. I thought they covered the 3.5. We did get the under, but the snap counts have been alarming for Derrick Henry over the little bit. So tough matchup against Cleveland. It was a tough week 1 against the Saints, right? Those are 2 good run defenses, 2 solid defenses for sure. But Derrick Henry playing 38% of the snaps and Spears playing 56% of the snaps. And Spears is good. He was great in the preseason. He's a good change of pace. He does look a little bit quicker. I think he's got better hands. So I think part of that was the game was out of hand, right? Henry's just running into walls the entire game. So the game was out of hand, playing a little bit more Spears. Do the Titans trade Henry? Do they move off from him? I think Spears is good for Henry because it could maybe keep him healthier, maybe keep him more relevant over the next little bit, because at some point, this just happens to all the running backs. When you have multiple campaigns with over 300 touches, it's gonna catch up to you. Maybe we're seeing a little bit of that, but my goodness, Ryan Tannehill just can't move the chains. He's just not good enough, and they don't have a better option. So I don't know where this changes. I would not be buying low on Derrick Henry. I had a question earlier. Do I trade Derrick Henry? It's like, yeah, sure. And you trade him. Who could you get for him? Like, what running back is struggling that you could get for Derrick Henry? Can you get Josh Jacobs? I'd make that switch. I'd make that switch. Could you get Najee Harris? Probably. I wouldn't do that. That's not something I would do. I wouldn't be trading him for DeAndre Swift, or wouldn't be trading him for Zach Moss. Wouldn't be trading for any Baltimore running back. It's tough out there for running backs. Wouldn't be trading for Kelly. Like, you're probably not going to be able to get Saquon or Eckler, even though these guys are hurt. Could you get Alvin Kamara? Do that, something like that potentially. But tough, man. Like, it really is tough. You want to have the handcuff there. I totally get it, especially with all these injuries that are happening. A-Chain may be a bit of a trap. You're going to get into him in a little bit. Like, he's got a ton of speed. Everybody's got a ton of speed in Miami, right? Mostert and Wilson's coming back here soon. He's got a ton of speed. We know that Waddle and Hurts have all the Waddle and Tyreek have all the speed as well. But this will be a kind of like, you won't be able to know which like last night was, I think it's an outlier. I mean, for 170 points, but Mostert and A-Chain popped off. I would expect A-Chain to be Mostert to be the lead, A-Chain there, but Jeff Wilson too. Like, McDaniel comes from Kyle Shanahan, and Kyle Shanahan has done this before with all these backs. I mean, he had Wilson and Mostert and was doing it in San Fran a couple of years ago, and Mike McDaniel grabbed those guys. He was familiar with those guys. It's a similar offense. Like, I can use this speed. I'm going to open up some avenues for these guys. But A-Chain definitely looks like a player. I would rank him the rest of the way, Mostert, A-Chain, and Wilson. But don't be shocked if Wilson comes back and he starts to, get some touches as well. Not the end of the world there for you, but definitely looks like a game changer at the moment. That's for sure. Can you imagine a game where Tampa limits Philly's run game in a close? Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I said it just earlier. I know that question probably came before I dove into tonight's game. Yeah, I do. I think that this is a field goal game. I would love to say that Philly's going to look like the NFC powerhouses from last year, and they're going to put up a 40 spot. But I just don't think so. I think there's still some issues, just new offensive coordinator. I think there's still some things going on. I think this can be a tight game. And I don't think that Philly's going to run all over them. I really don't. I mean, Vegas is telling you too, like 37.5 rushing yards. Again, we have DeAndre for 60, but 37. I mean, Vegas knows what they're doing. They build big buildings for a reason. Zach Holt in the house. Hey, guys. Would you trade away Kirk Cousins and Dameon Pierce for Justice Hill and Mark Andrews? My QB is hurts, but my running back room is hurting. So this is a really good question. And this is something that I've talked a lot about for a couple of weeks. And I think I've talked about this in fantasy for years now. You can't be having two quarterbacks like this. And I think this is right for you, what you want to do here. You want to trade one of these quarterbacks because you want to play Jalen Hurts every week, right? He's matchup proof. And Kirk is good. He's another good option. He's another guy that always goes outside the top 12 of the quarterback position. It's a pass-happy offense. Kevin O'Connell throwing the ball 72% of the time. Justin Jefferson, TJ Hawkinson, right? Jordan Addison looks great. Man, Madison too. Madison had a ton of touches. He almost had that fumble. I thought if that wasn't overturned, I thought he was just going to sit his butt on the bench. That was going to be it for him. Cam Akers is going to have a real opportunity to steal away some touches from Mr. Madison. I guess Mark Andrews is great. So you're obviously upgrading a tight end, but I'm not interested in Justice Hill at all. Not one bit. Zach, I don't know if you're new to the show, but I said this Baltimore backfield will be a trap. I didn't want anybody to spend a lot of fab on Justice Hill or Gus Edwards. Gus Edwards didn't look great yesterday, and Melvin Gordon got a bunch of touches. I think, honestly, between Hill, Melvin Gordon, and Gus Edwards, Melvin Gordon may be the guy who comes away on top. It may not be saying a whole lot because they may use all of these guys, and we saw, Lamar, old school Lamar with a couple rushing touchdowns. That's going to happen. But I don't like this at all for you. I think you can do better. Maybe you can't because it's quarterback and nobody wants Kirk Cousins. There's something to be said of making Jalen Hurts available because you will get a good offer for Jalen Hurts. I think the question that we had last week was Trevor Lawrence versus, it was like Trevor Lawrence and I forget the other quarterback, but it was maybe like a fringe top 12, like maybe it was Deshaun Watson or Geno or something like that. And I was saying maybe to trade Trevor Lawrence. Like I like Trevor Lawrence more than Geno and Deshaun, despite the struggles from T-Law at the moment. I think he'll turn things around. He would be a guy I'd hold on to. Fields would be a guy I'd hold on to as well. I think those guys will turn things around. But if you wanted to pick up another quarterback and play the matchups until they do, you could do something like that. But trading the bigger name, you'll get more for return. So people may not want Kirk Cousins because they don't believe in him, but he's a good fantasy quarterback. And Pierce is struggling at the moment. It was nice to see him get a touchdown. Missing a bunch of dudes on the offensive line doesn't help him at all. And it has been a pass-happy offense with C.J. Stroud under center, who, by the way, again, he looks money. Carolina's going to regret that pick. And I know it's too early to count out Bryce Young, but I think they're going to regret that pick. I just think you could do better than Justice Hill. And do you want two Ravens? Mark Andrews is great. I don't know who your other tight end is. I just think you could do better. Justice Hill is not even healthy at the moment. And it's got a lot going on there. So if you want to make your running back, I think that hurts your running back room. Like I would rank Pierce ahead of Justice Hill the rest of the way, Zach. So make Jalen Hurts available. Pops off this week. Don't worry about it. If he pops off tonight, just means you can get more for him. And I think you could roll out Kirk Cousins the rest of the way. I think he's a top 10 quarterback, top 12 quarterback. And maybe you can get something else to help. But I think you're on the right mindset, right? To improve the running back room. They should bench Burrow, but they're 0-2. They're 0-2. I don't know if anybody saw on Friday was Jamar Chase, the interview with, it was just a scrum, but Jay Morrison, who covers the Bengals from Pro Football Talk, we had him on the show earlier this year to preview the Bengals, Jamar was like, no, I don't think he's going to play. I hope he doesn't play. I've been telling him not to play since week one, just kind of like, just get right and get better. And I thought that was kind of telling, but again, according to reports, it does sound like he's going to play. Chargers should trade for Penny. Rashad? Yeah. I mean, Kelly does not look good. It's 2 games in a row. This should have been a better one for him, a better game for him. He did look good in week 1. Sometimes there's these running backs that just are better in like change of pace scenarios. Like remember Chase Edmonds when he looked really good, like better than Kenyon Drake, and then Kenyon Drake got hurt, and then Chase Edmonds had all those touches and then just didn't look good. I guess the same thing could be said for Joshua Kelly because we've been down this road before. It was his rookie season, but he wasn't efficient when Eckler was hurt. They were giving all those touches to Kelly. Kelly was good in week 1, but Miami was kind of playing back, like, sitting their corners back and knew that maybe Herbert and them would want to throw the ball deep down the field. So that kind of played into it a little bit. Plus it was a change of pace thing. So it's clear the Eagles don't like Penny. To me, that's very clear because he didn't really touch the field at all last week, and he wouldn't have if Boston Scott didn't leave with a concussion. And Boston Scott is out this week, and I don't expect Penny to touch the field either unless something happened to Gainwell or Swift. But that would be it. That would be an option. The Chargers' offensive line is not fantastic either. It's not great. They have some moments, but they've really struggled, I think, over the past couple of years. They've tried to address it for sure. But, yeah, I don't know. Deesh, yeah, he said it. He said it there for you. Craig, hi there. Ridley wide receiver, and Gibbs running back, and Dallas QB letting you down. Yeah, Ridley had that big week 1, right? Big week 1, pretty quiet back-to-back weeks. Might have to shy away from him from the receiving yard prop. It got burned now in back-to-back weeks. And Kirk did play more than him. Gibbs is fine. Gibbs, we're not tooting our own horn, but I just want to, Gibbs was a fade for me because of Montgomery, but there was no Montgomery. The thing I'll say about Gibbs is he played 60% of the snaps. Reynolds only played 36% of the snaps. He was getting some carries. We had the over 11.5 in the prop shop or in the pick tracker. He did that, but it's not helping your fantasy team. It's like a betting thing. But I thought that, getting 7 carries in the first 2 weeks, I thought it was good that they gave him double-digit carries, a couple of red zone looks. Thought we see more involvement through the air, a couple more catches. And Dak was a fade for me too. Like I probably move on from Dak. I don't know what quarterbacks are available in your league. You probably can't get Kirk Cousins. I wouldn't do it for CJ Stroud, but Dallas may have some better moments. They haven't been asked to push the pace. McCarthy's certainly a conservative play caller. Week 1 the game was over immediately. Week 2, the game was kind of over immediately. Dak certainly struggled inside the red zone. Got New England at home next week, which is it's a pretty tough matchup. Yeah, I think you'll be fine. I wouldn't move on from those guys. Maybe just Dak. I don't know what quarterbacks are available for you there. With Mike Williams injury, so this is what we need to get to here today. With this, Brett Thunderstruck in the house with Mike Williams injury. Do you like Quentin Johnson or Palmer better, or do we just pick up Parham? Man, Parham's a weapon, right? That guy is a beast. I don't know if he's good. He may be good enough to start as a tight end, because if you just get a touchdown, you're good to go. Like, the only tight ends I think that I trust at the moment are Kelsey, Andrews, Hawkinson, Kittle, Sam Laporta. Sam Laporta, I would rank number 6. The rest of 6. I did 5, 6. The rest of the way. I would rank him the rest of the way as a top 6 tight end ahead of Dallas Goedert. Sam Laporta looks phenomenal. And that's one thing that we got right in this show. We had him for an anytime touchdown. I think it was plus 240. I really regret not getting involved with his catch prop. It was like 3.5. His receiving yard prop was like 30 something. 11 targets, 8 grabs, and 84 yards and a touchdown. So for a rookie tight end to see these kind of numbers, 18 grabs and 186 yards, and I don't care that Jameson Williams is coming back. He's not going to be a target machine, right? He's going to stretch the defense, going to have some big plays. It's big, Barry Boomer bust. But Laporta is looking like the number 2 option at the moment in Detroit, and I would feel pretty confident about that. But like Parham's such a big body, and I don't know why they don't use him more. They clearly do inside the red zone. This is where I'm at for wide receiver rankings, and I know that this is a big thing here this week. And I hope that I'm not wrong. I'm a big Quentin guy. Palmer's a Canadian boy, which is fun to see him on the field. This is where I'm at. So Adam Thielen, right? Adam Thielen should be rostered regardless of who the quarterback is. Clearly, Adam Thielen is better with Andy Dalton. DJ Chark is better with Andy Dalton. He also had a big game. Right? I think he had 11 targets and 80 some odd yards and a touchdown. Adam Thielen would be my first pickup. And what I will say is Adam Thielen, even with last week, Bryce Young, he had 7 grabs, 9 targets, 54 yards, and a touchdown. He should be owned. He would be the guy that I would go to first. I think he's the number 1 option on the team. After that, Tank Dell. We had Tank Dell here last week. I thought we had him ranked pretty high. I think his ownership is roughly 30%, 30%, something like that, over at Yahoo. These are just sub 60% guys in Yahoo, and some of these guys may be owned. I know a lot of people here play competitive football, so these guys may have been picked up last week. We're trying to dig a little bit deeper down the list of guys that could be available for you. But next up for me would be Tank Dell. Week 1, quiet, first NFL game. It's all right. Week 2, 10 targets, 7 grabs, 72 yards, touchdown. Last night, 7 targets, 5 grabs, 145 yards, busted coverage, whatever. Speed was on full display. Found the end zone again. I still like Nico Collins. Nico Collins is still a guy I like. I got a question earlier. What do I do with Nico Collins? What does that mean? He had 2 good games. He had a quiet game yesterday. The game kind of got out of hand, right? We kind of expected as 9-point dogs that they would throw the football more in the second half of that game. They just didn't need to. Tank Dell got his. Nico Collins was quiet in that game, but I still like Nico Collins overall. I would have him on this list number one if he was sub 60% ownership. Joshua Palmer, I have ahead of Quentin Johnson. Now, there's a couple things here. I think if you need a wide receiver and you are in a pinch, Palmer is your guy. He played 61% of the snaps yesterday. Johnson played 24%. Johnson hasn't done a whole lot. He's been playing behind Joshua Palmer. I think the ceiling is higher for Quentin Johnston. But again, he is a rookie and hasn't played a whole lot. I think that he's a better route runner. I think he's more explosive. But Palmer, even with a new offensive coordinator, is a little bit more familiar. And I do believe over these next couple of weeks, he's going to play ahead of Quentin Johnston. So again, if you need a wide receiver, you're looking, oh man, I need somebody to play this week, then I think Palmer's your guy. If you're looking for that home run shot, maybe you want a guy to stash, you're thinking long term, you're 3-0, you really like your wide receivers, you pick up Quentin Johnston, and maybe this thing plays out over the next few weeks. They got the Raiders coming up this week, which is a good matchup. Then they have the bye in week 5. Out of that bye, Dallas, KC, Chicago. The Jets is a tough spot. They actually have a mini tough stretch before the playoffs. You're going to get the Broncos week 14, the Raiders week 15, Buffalo's week 16. You worry about it week 16. You've really made it the distance pretty much. You get to that point. So I don't want to confuse anybody, but I am with Palmer. That would be the pickup for me. I think he's going to be the more expensive pickup. Probably be pretty close in terms of percentage of fab. Sky Moore is in the middle there. I still like Sky Moore, right? He just an okay game yesterday, not a whole lot, but he played more snaps than anybody else, after Travis Kelce. He had the touchdown in week 2. And that game was just out of hand, right? We didn't even see Patrick Mahomes for a big part of that second half. And Kadarius Toney played 3% of the snaps, guys, by the way. Those Kadarius Toney truthers out there. Just move on. So I'm Palmer. Immediate pickup. Quentin Johnston, maybe a bit of a project, but I don't want to be that guy. But this is why we said Quentin Johnston was worth holding on to. This is why we said he's worth a flyer, because unfortunately, Mike Williams and Keenan Allen have had some injuries over the past couple of years, and these guys are linked to a quarterback in Justin Herbert and a play caller in Kellen Moore, which we like. So Palmer, then Johnston. Romeo Doubs, I don't know what's going on with Christian Watson. I heard that he was close. He wanted to sit out again. I think him sitting out again is good. You want these wide receivers to have hamstring injuries to come back too soon. Then they suffer that setback, and then it's it. Then you're just dropping him. I think Christian Watson will play next week. When he comes back, he will cut into Doubs and Jaden Reed. But those guys are good players, man. Like Jordan Love, it's all I heard about Jordan Love, number 1 passer rating, yada, yada, yada. Well, he has a completion percentage of like 55. Like it was the third worst of all qualified quarterbacks. I mean, Zach Wilson was last and Deshaun Watson, then Jordan Love. But Jordan Love, credit to him, man. He made some throws. They were down in that game, 17 points. It came all the way back. And his wide receivers made plays for him. Romeo Doubs in the end zone. That was a hell of a catch. Jaden Reed laid out and grabbed the ball too. That was a hell of a catch. I don't know if there'll be enough volume for these guys to feel great about them as wide receiver 3s, because they're doing work without Watson, who I believe will be the number 1 when he is healthy and playing. But these should be owned. Josh Downs is getting targets. Anthony Richardson, I want him to play. I think that Downs and Michael Pittman are just like Andy Dalton and with Chark and Thielen. I think those guys are better with the veteran quarterback, but that's not what these teams want to do, right? They want to have Anthony Richardson out there and have Bryce Young out there and develop them as passers. They don't want to have them sit behind. But if they're going to suffer injuries, they may have to kind of cool it, especially with Bryce Young. They may have to actually cool it because the offensive line is not good and you can't just be taking shots, and they don't trust him to throw it on the field at the moment. And then DJ Chark is like a deep league thing. Rasheed Rice, touchdown call back. Actually, 2 touchdowns were pretty close for him to score. But he's the guy. Like if you had Kadarius Toney, like he's a guy that I would much rather have. So I hope that answers your question, Brett. I am on Palmer, but I do believe both guys should be picked up. We'll just see how this does play out. We'll do running backs here in a second. Just want to get to the rest of the questions. Daily Handle with Jordan Allen. Good afternoon, Means, and everybody. Welcome in, buddy. Tennessee line is atrocious. Tannehill might be you may not be wrong. You may not be wrong. The offensive line we have ranked at 32nd over at ftnfantasy.com. So I would agree. It is atrocious. They don't have anywhere else to go. Like you don't throw Will Levis out into that nonsense and that mess. They actually went out and thought that they were going to be competitive with Hopkins. Yeah, he may just be. I would say that Zach Wilson is definitely number like 32, like 4th and 10, and he can't even throw past 2 yards. He is just, the Jets are better off just releasing him and cutting him. He's a distraction on the field. He's a distraction with the players. Garrett Wilson's wide open all the time. He's freaking out. They can't win with him. They might as well go to 3rd string quarterback, call Carson Wentz, see what Wentz is doing. Is Kirk Cousins available? Cousins is what, on the last year of his deal? The Vikings are 0-3. They're not out of the division, but they need to rattle off a bunch of wins. But they should probably call somebody. Heck, they should call Tannehill, and then they'll have the 31st best quarterback in the NFL. AJ or Chase? I would go AJ. I have AJ ranked ahead. I know our projections have AJ ahead of Chase. I know Ratcliffe has AJ ahead of Chase. Both guys are studs. I think that there's a little bit more safety here, Camden, with AJ Brown. I don't want to steer you in the wrong direction. Clearly, I hope that it's the right call. How many points are you down? I don't know if it really matters. They both have high ceilings. I think AJ is going to get his tonight. I think he's going to. It's been a lot of Devontae touchdowns in week 1, week 2. I think AJ is going to be the guy tonight. Any chance get either Montgomery or Christian Watson back this week? I think we'll get Watson back, although it is a Thursday night football game, isn't it? It is a Thursday night football game against the Lions. I'm not 100% sure we're going to get either of those guys back. I would say no for sure on Montgomery. That's the guy I'm leaning. I just heard it was a multi-week thing for Montgomery. Montgomery owners should be just patient with him. Don't move on, right? We liked the usage early. This is why we said he was a good value. He would get that goal line carries. And Gibbs looks like the better back, but that's not how Detroit's going to play. It's going to be very similar to last year with Williams and DeAndre Swift. All right, so we got a question here. All right, my team, Kirk Cousins, Bijan Robinson, Gibbs. You get the 2 rookie backs there. AJ, Godwin, Goddard, a little Philly thing going on there. Stevenson and benches, JSN, Dell, Sutton, Laporta, Christian Kirk, Jordan Love, Hunt. But to be 3-0, I need help. 1 flex full PPR. Is this for this? Oh, you're about to be 0-3. This is for next week. I appreciate the questions. It's a little early to dive into start and sit on a Monday. I'll be honest with you. I don't even know all the matchups. To dive into this. And I appreciate you taking the time to hang out and ask this question, but I don't know if you want to check back in on Thursday's episode. We can dive into this. I'll just say off the top of my head, you're starting Bijan and Gibbs all the time. Godwin and AJ Brown are in the lineup. I would play Laporta over Goddard. I would try to trade Goddard. I don't think you need 2 tight ends, and Goddard is good. He shouldn't be on the waiver wire, but Laporta is a guy that's getting targets. He's the number 2. Goddard at best is the number 3 inside the Eagles offense and the team that likes to run first. So I would try to move on from Goddard. It may be tough to trade him because he hasn't done a whole lot. If he has a good game today, that'd be easier for you. JSN's on the bench for now. Tank Dell, you can't play him over Gibbs or Godwin or AJ or Godwin. Sutton's had some nice moments. Kirk's had some nice moments too. Again, I don't know all of the matchups, but I think you've just been a little unlucky by the sounds of it. Bijan didn't have a great game yesterday, but it was really good to see him play a big bulk of the snaps again. I think he played nearly 80% of the snaps. I have it down here. 81%, Algier 30%. So that was good to see. You don't need Jordan Love, right? I mean, you're just rolling out Kirk Cousins. When Kirk Cousins on a bye, then you go pick up, somebody and stream it. Hunt's a little stash there for you. But Jerome Ford did play. I know it was just the first game, but Ford, 56% of the snaps. Didn't do a whole lot on the ground. We didn't expect that, but he had some catches, receiving yard, prop hit and catches, and, the touchdown there. Hunt played 20% of the snaps. I would suggest maybe trying to make some noise here. A Goddard trade, a Sam Laporta trade. I would immediately go to the owner who has Kyle Pitts. Kyle, you can't start Kyle Pitts. Just tell them, what are you doing starting Kyle Pitts every week? Kyle Pitts, I would look Pat Freiermuth owners. Could see a little bit of an uptick here. I don't know. Zay Jones missed a little bit of time. Ingram was really quiet in the first half, better second half. It seems okay, right? You got some pieces, maybe a little bit bad luck here to start 0-3, but I think the first few guys you have in your lineup, you get in there, and maybe you consider selling high on Sutton. I like Dell, and you're going to get into some injuries in bye weeks. It's way too early yet to panic. 0-3. I mean, you don't want to go 0-4, but bye weeks are going to happen. Injuries are going to happen. I think you got a solid base there. Sam Laporta had more yards than his, what is that? All Matter Iowa this week. Yeah, it's a good one. Man, Sam Laporta's good. It is great. Man, college is a tough go for Dion in Colorado. They got smacked in the mouth. Would you switch downs with those 2 Chargers wide receivers? No, so I had the 2 Chargers wide receivers ahead of them. I believe it should have. That would be a mistake if I didn't. Yeah, no, I'm in on the Chargers guys. I guess if you need, no, I still am. Like if you need somebody to start this week, and if you're in a real big pinch, I can see how you would want to start Downs over Quentin Johnson, because Johnson again could be a bit of a project, could take a little bit of time here. But if you're just shooting for upside and you don't need these guys right away, it's like a patient type thing. Johnston is the pickup for me. Downs is getting some targets, but at some point Anthony Richardson will be back, and I don't think he's going to be a great passer this year. Like the volume may be there, but the targets certainly not on point so far. So Downs good, like what I've seen from him, but ultimately I am in on the Chargers wide receivers first. I think we got that one. Daily Handle doing all the work for us. Smash that like button. No problem, Brett. We're all good here. Let's go. Yeah, this is one that I thought I would get. Not you. I may have to take the L on that. Jake Seeley as well. We are both big on Dotson. It doesn't look good. Just there's not a lot of volume. Man, Sam Howell had a bad game, right? 4 picks. And everyone likes Sam Howell. Cool story. He graded out pretty well the first 2 games, in our data. I think he was like number 2 in terms of highlight reel throws, but too early to drop. Jahan Dotson. I will take this L too. I was a big Dotson guy. Too early to drop, but can't be starting him. Can't be putting him in the lineup at the moment. Guys like Tank Dell, Nico Collins, Tutu Atwell, target machines, volume machines. You have to play this sort of game. Volume is king. If you're in a shallow 8-10 team league, I could see moving on from Dotson. If you're in a 12 team standard, you got 5 or 6 bench spots. I think you can hang for now, but oof. I don't know this answer, Negative Mike. When will Cooper Kupp be back? He is eligible to return week 5, but I don't know. There's nothing that's concrete. Like he's going to be back. He's going to be activated. I still believe that Nakua, he's clearly not going to be like what is he averaging? 17 targets a game through 2 weeks. He's not going to be that. Like Cooper Kupp will be the guy. But I would still view Nakua as like a wide receiver 3 or a flex play, as a guy that could get 5 or 6 grabs a game. He's a good route runner. Tutu Atwell, I think, will be the guy that takes a step back. He would be the guy that I would consider selling high, because I think when Kupp comes back, it would hurt him. But Kupp is this is not a lock, right? Last year was a lot of injuries. Injury this year. You're down 25. So you got a chance. Okay, I don't think that question was for this week. Oh, no. That was a different question. I'm getting mixed up. I did see you ask a question. Was it about tonight? Do I play AJ Brown or Chase? It was for tonight. You're down 25. Normally I would be Chase, right? Normally it's like, Chase and Burrow. It could be a Burrow Chase night, but I think there's a little bit of risk. I think that, we could see AJ. You want me to, let me give you the projections. Maybe this will put your mind at ease, because our projections, I'm not going to lie, like they're just awesome. They're on point. Like Ratcliffe's the GOAT, man. He's the GOAT. Let's go wide receiver projections. I'm pretty sure we have AJ projected for more, and that was with Burrow being questionable. So we do have AJ for, you're going to want more than this, 14.5 points in a half point setting. We have him for 5.7 grabs and 81.4 receiving yards, half a touchdown. And we have Jamar Chase at 12.4. We have him for 5.4 grabs and 65.8 receiving yards. And that's just, slightly below, right? Just roughly 25 yards fewer. But yeah. Man, Chase leads the NFL. I think he's second in the NFL in touchdowns since he entered the league. It's a good stat, Negative Mike. It's a good stat. Never gone 3 games without a TD. I kind of feel like he's going to score a touchdown this week. But I also gave AJ for a touchdown as well. Oh, man, tough spot. I think I would go AJ, and it's not just because I bleed green. That's kind of where I'm at. My tight end, it was Higbee had to trade Ford and Mims for Laporte and Christian Watson. Oh, it's a good trade, right? Mims is not really getting on the field. He's making things happen, but he's not getting on the field. He's not playing a lot of snaps. And I think he won that deal, right? I mean, Ford looks like a decent little player, right? He's going to get a lot of touches. But if he didn't really need a running back, he definitely got a massive upgrade over Laporta and Mims. Good afternoon, Brzis. Welcome in, and Mean Streets Degenerates. We do have some running back rankings here, and I will stay here if you guys have any other questions. I got a baseball pick as well, so we're flirting here with an hour. So those people that are popping in here now, we gave some picks and some props for tonight. We get a same game parlay. We hit a 5-1 and 11-1 yesterday over at ftmbets.com. We have a same game parlay with Tampa and with Philly. It was AJ Brown over 4.5, Mike Williams over 3.5, 4+ grabs for Godwin, and over 2.5 for Kate Otten. And over on the Rams side, we like Puka Nacua over 6.5 catches. The 5.5 is gone from this morning. Like Tutu Atwell over 4.5, and like Kyron Williams over 3.5 too. And if we do see a healthy Joe Burrow active, I will get involved probably with like an anytime touchdown from Jamar Chase. Deesh, need a Monday Night Miracle. Up 16.68. You got Kyron. He's got the kicker, Chase and AJ Brown. It'll be tough. You might be able to pull that one out, especially if Burrow doesn't play. You may be able to pull that out, but I think Kyron is a guy that's just going to get another 20 opportunities, a lot of touches, and I think he'll find the end zone. Would have had more if took the shot. Yeah. DJ Moore was looking like a donut too. I mean, you got the late garbage time touchdown. Looking like a donut for him. And he must just be hating life, right? This guy's never had a good quarterback, and now he's just dealing with all this nonsense in Chicago. And I think the Bears are the worst team in football, and the Broncos just gave up 70 points. Chicago and Denver play next week. That should be fun. A guy from my league needs a QB. What should I ask for Ritter? Bag of chips, Doritos. If you can get any kind of bag of Doritos for Desmond Ritter, I would do that. Any kind. Like even the red nacho bag. Like this. Probably my least favorite. You can get the jalapeno, sweet chili. I would try that. I'm assuming this is a super flex league. Whatever you can get, man. Guy needs a quarterback, whatever you can get. I would roll out other players if that was like a super flex where you didn't have to play quarterback. I would play like any running back or wide receiver pretty much over him as well. All right, we got to get into the running back rankings. Didn't go well. Tua and Mostert. Yeah, no doubt. He went up against 70 points. He got spanked. All right, so one more time. Wide receivers right here. Adam Thielen, Tank Dell, Joshua Palmer. Immediate pickup, Joshua Palmer. I think it's going to take a little bit of time here for Quentin Johnson, but wheels are up. Rocket ship emoji. This is it. Again, we're not ever going to victory lap injuries, but this is what we talked about, that there may be an opportunity for him. And he's been playing behind Joshua Palmer. It may just take a couple weeks, but he's the high upside play. If you are already set at wide receiver, you need somebody this week. I do believe Palmer is the play. Sky Moore, Romeo Dubs, Josh Downs, Jaden Reed, DJ Chark, and Rasheed Rice. Over to running back ranks. You guys guessed it. It's A-Chain up at the top of the list here. I wouldn't be spending over 50% of my fab. It does depend on how running back needy you are. But keep in mind that this will be a full-on committee. If Jeff Wilson is ready to go here come week 5, I would say that he would play behind A-Chain, Raheem Mostert being the guy. But, man, speed kills. Mike McDaniel is a hell of a play caller. This Miami offense is the best offense in football. They may just set records this year. We'll see the big test for them this week in Buffalo. Big test. It'll be a big test once we start to hit, December, colder situations. You watch a Miami game, their bench is in the shade. The other team is just sitting on the bench in 100-degree weather. It's just it's really tough to go in Miami and win a football game. And yeah, they built that stadium strategically. They did a good job of it, but A-Chain definitely is the guy here. Jalen Warren knocking on the door. He's knocking on the door. He played 45% of the snaps last night. Did look a little bit fresher, catching balls out of the backfield. He had another, 3 yesterday. So he's got 9, 10, quick math, 12 grabs in 3 games here. It's pretty good. And Najee looked pretty dust again. Only played 50% of the snaps. Zach Charbonnet, Rashawn Johnson, I still think he's a good, Chicago, they're a mess right now offensively. They're not great. There needs to be some sort of change at the head coach position, offensive coordinator position. They already lost their defensive coordinator. All these things are happening right now in Chicago. But Rashawn Johnson still to me is right there of overtaking Khalil Herbert. Herbert played 55% of the snaps. Rashawn Johnson played 45% of the snaps. Rashawn Johnson, I think, had maybe one more touch, more yards, more receiving yards, more efficient on the ground. So it's not an offense that you really want to be linked to, but I think he's a good stash. Zach Charbonnet, although Kenneth Walker has looked really good. He's found the end zone a couple times. Again, yesterday, a really good game. But I did notice that Charbonnet was starting to get a little bit more work, more touches, played 43% of the snaps. Walker played 51% of the snaps. It's kind of like again, wait and see, stash type deal, next man up sort of deal if anything happened to Kenneth Walker. Jerick McKinnon, a couple of receiving touchdowns, looked like Jerick McKinnon of last year. Man, Isaiah Pacheco was getting to the goal line, and then that's it. Right? And he was getting on the sidelines, and it was more McKinnon getting in there and vulturing the touchdowns. And Clyde Edwards-Helaire played a lot in the second half, but that game was out of hand. McKinnon's on that list. Zeke got more touches, which was, I guess, a little bit surprising. He did play 38% of the snaps. Stevenson, 65% of the snaps. I think it's an outlier. Zeke got a little bit of run, riding the hot hand. I wouldn't worry too much about Stevenson. And Zeke is a guy that just should be owned. And, you're maybe starting him as a flex when we get into some bye weeks and things like that. Kendre Miller, just as stash, I'm sure most people picked him up and stashed him last week and just kind of waited and see how it played out. Jones played 49% of the snaps and Miller 34%, but we all know that Alvin Kamara is going to play next week. Tough go for Derek Carr, who suffered an injury. Doesn't look like it's season ending, but we'll see some we'll see some Winston in there, and we're going to see Taysom Hill in there as well. Tajay Spears should be maybe a little bit higher. Maybe he should be behind McKinnon. Like if I needed McKinnon. I played him in a league when flex, and it kind of worked out for me. I didn't expect a whole lot, but it's like, hey, he's linked to Mahomes and a good offense. Maybe he'll find the end zone, and he did. But if you're looking for a stash, Spears probably, I would rank them, and you see them, Johnson, Charbonnet, and Spears as good stashes. Deeper leagues, Melvin Gordon and Elijah Mitchell had some run. It was a short week, Thursday Night Football, and they blew the doors off the Giants, and they're probably going to blow the doors off the Niners this week, or the Cardinals this week. So maybe if you're in a tough spot as a flex play, but he's really just a handcuff if anything happened to CMC, and Christian McCaffrey looks fantastic. But Melvin Gordon got a little bit of run, played 40% of the snaps. Gus played 44% of the snaps. I just think that when the Ravens put Gus Edwards on the field, they're just tipping their hand. They know that he's not going to catch any passes, not going to get a target. They're going to just run with him, where he's there to kind of pass protect. He was running a little bit more routes, in the last game, but still not really getting any targets. And I don't view him as a pass catching back. I think Melvin Gordon, still, he's still got it. And when I say it, it's like, it could be a flex play for you in a couple of weeks. So it's like a pickup and stash. He was activated. He did play a lot more than Kenyon Drake. Kenyon Drake didn't play a whole lot there. So, all right, I think we did it. Just some target leader stuff here. I know you guys can search this up, but Keenan Allen, 20 targets, 18 grabs, 215 receiving yards. Man, he's been unstoppable this year. I had him as a top 5 wide receiver, and I'm glad that I did, because just this week I did. I actually don't have a lot of Keenan Allen. Man, I wish I did. He looks unreal. Even tossed a touchdown. He's like Jerry Rice. This guy's doing it all. Devontae Adams, 20 targets, 13 grabs, 172 yards, and 2 touchdowns. What team does Devontae Adams play for next year? It's probably not the Raiders. Adam Thielen, 14, 11, 145 and a touch. If you were good at the wide receiver position, I would consider selling high with Adam Thielen, but we did talk about him as a waiver wire pickup. And the betting market, for those that like to dabble in a little bit of props, he's clearing this one pretty easily. We had 2.5 the other night, 2.5, and that was with Bryce Young, and he cleared that on the opening drive. And clearly he cleared the 3.5 that he was at yesterday with the 11 grabs. You want Andy Dalton to start. DJ Chark's down the list with 11 targets. If you have those guys, you do want Andy Dalton there, but I'm sure Bryce Young will be back. I think in a couple of weeks. I think they'll roll out Dalton again next week. Justin Jefferson, always 13, 7, 149 and a touch. Jacoby Myers, Jacoby Meters from the Raiders, 12 targets. Jimmy G's only throwing to 2 guys. It's Devontae Adams and it's Jacoby. Josh Jacobs not getting a whole lot of work through the receiving yard. And I don't know. Does Josh McDaniels forget that he has a weapon called Hunter Renfrow? Not seeing a whole lot from Hunter Renfrow. Just trade him already then. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 12, 9, and 102. Josh Downs in there, 12, 8, and 57. Deebo Samuel, 12, 6, and 192, or 129 with a touch. Stephon Diggs, 12, 8, and a $111. Dobbs in there, 12, 5, 73, and 1. How about Sam Laporta? 11, 8, 84, and 1. Oh my goodness. I still see people ranking Pitts ahead of Sam Laporta. Don't do it. Move on from Kyle Pitts. It's time. It's time. Opportunity leaders. These are carries plus targets. Zach Moss on this list again. Last week, he was near the top. I think he was number 2. I think maybe it was CMC, Kyron Williams, and Zach Moss. Listen, if you have Zach Moss, I don't really know what to do and just play him. I think that he's a sell high candidate. I don't know if I'm into buying him. I have no Zach Moss. He's been offered to me a couple times. I'm not biting. I can't tell you guys with confidence that Jonathan Taylor is going to return this year. I don't know. Like, there's clearly bad blood between him and the organization, right? They put him on the pup list. He said that he's healthy. He could play. Do they trade him at some point? Like, I just don't know. What I do know is that Zach Moss is going to be on this list every week that Jonathan Taylor is not active. Deion Jackson was released. Zach Moss is catching passes, goal line work. You know, when we see Anthony Richardson there, he is going to call his own number inside the red zone. He's got 3 rushing touchdowns in like 5 quarters. But if you have Zach Moss, I think you just continue to roll him out. And maybe, you know, if you're in a really good spot at the running back position, like he's your 3rd RB, or luckily for you, he's your 4th RB. I wish for me, I would make him available, and I would just see, you know, who has Saquon, who is Eckler, who is Najee Harris, you know, who has these running backs that are struggling at the moment. Maybe you can get something to balance out your squad. Madison won't be on this list again, I don't think. I think really do believe that Cam Akers is going to get some touches. It's interesting, right? Kevin O'Connell comes from Sean McVay. They were together when they drafted Akers. There has to be something there that he liked. Maybe he was part of the reason they drafted Cam Akers. Like, that's all very possible. But Madison there at 27, Tony Pollard 26, Travis Etienne Jr. at 24, CMC at 23. Ramondre, see, he still had all those touches. Still had all those opportunities, even though Zeke got some run. He was a little bit more efficient. Devon Achane at 22. Josh Jacobs at 22. Kenneth Walker at 21. And again, Najee Harris there, getting the opportunities, getting the carries, but not looking fantastic with those carries. So I think we did it. I do have one more pick here for you guys. It is a baseball play tonight. Texas Rangers over 5.5 runs at plus 104. And Josh Young, who returned to the lineup, was really on his way to winning AL Rookie of the Year. I don't think he's going to get it anymore. We do it at a 10-1 ticket on that one. Over 1.5 total bases. The plus 155 is from Bet365. This is the free article that I wrote. Texas up against Patrick Sandoval. I think they just racked up 19 runs in the 3-game sweep against Seattle over the weekend. Big series, and Texas took it to them. And Seattle's got a good rotation and a great bullpen. Now they get the Halos tonight, Texas that is, and we know that they don't have a great team. Patrick Sandoval walking 4 batters per 9. I think he's issued at least 3 walks in 6 of his last 7 starts, and he got lit up against Texas last month. He didn't even get out of the 3rd inning. He walked a bunch of guys, I think 6, gave up 4 runs. Home runs are starting to catch up to Patrick Sandoval here a little bit. So like the Rangers at over 5.5 runs at plus 104. I think that's from Unibet. I think DraftKings is hanging plus 100. And then I would go with Marcus Semien again. I like Marcus Semien over 1.5 total bases. Should lead off for Texas here today. He does lead the Rangers. Him and Corey Seager are 1 and 2 in extra base hits against southpaws, lefties. Sandoval is a left-handed pitcher. But Josh Young actually leads the team in average. And I know he's missed a lot of time, but he still has roughly 100 plate appearances against southpaws. He has, I had the numbers in front of me. He's 3rd on the team in extra base hits against lefties. I think he's got like 11 or 13 extra base hits against southpaws. So Young, this is a good number at plus 155 for 2 total bases. And Marcus Semien, I think, is at plus 100 or plus 105 for 2 total bases as well. You can have some fun with the same game parlay. You can scale it back a little bit if you want Texas over 4.5 runs, money line, Young 2 bases, Semien 2 bases. You're asking for it if you do like more than 2 for 2 bases, but Seager's another guy that's hit lefties really well this year. And then maybe like a Semien run scored or something like that. At least Garcia hitting up in the cleanup spot. Young has had a homer. I think hits in every game, but 2. He's been back for about a week or so, and he was really good before the injury. So I like Texas there at over 4.5. No, it's not. If it's Andy Dalton, DJ Chark. The question here from RGG is DJ Chark's target sustainable? I'll say no. It's not because eventually at some point they'll go to Bryce Young. And what I've seen so far from Bryce Young is the offensive line definitely doesn't do him any favors, but Dalton's a veteran. Young hasn't, and I don't mean to be mean here, but he hasn't, I don't know if he can really see over the offensive line. And he's not taking any shots down the field. His wide receivers are not getting a ton of separation, but Dalton is like more accurate at this point. Even at this point of his career, he's more accurate than Bryce Young at the moment. So, no, that's why I have him down the list. You know, if you're in deeper formats, I would view him as a sell high candidate. I just think he should be on this list. Like, he should be a guy that is rostered. I meant to do this. I meant to show wide receivers that I would just straight up drop in place of some of these guys. And, you know, since there's some people hanging out here, I'll do this. And there, you may have some of these guys that you're just fed up with. And you're just like, you know what? I'm just going to drop them. Like, I would hang on Jahan Dotson. I said that. JSN, Jackson Smith-Njigba, I'm probably dropping him. I'm definitely not starting him. He's the third option in Seattle. I thought they'd be a little bit more pass happy this year. I haven't seen it yet, but 9 grabs is okay in 3 games, but he has 57 yards. Like, what's the ceiling? 13 yards, 34, 10. It's just not a high ceiling at the moment. So I would consider moving on for him for anybody on that list. Elijah Moore, I would hang on to because he's getting the targets 7, 9, and 9. It was a better game from Watson, but it was the Titans after all. Brendan Cooks, I'm down to move Cooks. Like, what are we doing with Brendan Cooks? You know, he's not doing a whole lot there, so I'm into moving him. Juju Smith-Schuster, see you later. Bye-bye. Right? I mean, why are we holding on to that guy? I'm not interested. Treylon Burks, same sort of deal. I'm not totally interested ever in starting Treylon Burks. We talked about Ryan Tannehill. I'm not into it. Josh Reynolds, I would hang. We talked about him as a waiver wire pickup. I just don't think he was 100% yesterday. He did play a lot of snaps, but he didn't get any looks. You know, I wouldn't start him this week, but I think he's worthy of a bench play. Odell Beckham Jr., if you want to be patient, I guess, but Zay Flowers is already playing ahead of him. It doesn't seem like this is some sort of like pass happy, amazing offense with Monken in town. It's like Andrews and Zay. Bateman, I'm not interested at all either. Like, that's a guy I would just go bye-bye to. Tyler Boyd, his ownership is way too high. Like, why is his ownership the same as Nico Collins? Like, it's just no thanks. Zay Jones, you can move on, you know, in deeper formats, be a little bit patient with him. Darnell Mooney, not interested at all. You know, his ownership is way too high. Kendrick Bourne, I don't mind. I think he's okay. Dallas and the Saints coming up. He's got a really couple tough matchups coming up. Parker could go down at any moment, and then it'd be Kendrick Bourne. Deeper formats, I'd maybe hang on to him, but I'd be looking elsewhere to start. Tank Dell's ownership is below all of those guys. He'll finally get picked up this week after another big week. Alan Lazard, no thanks. Mims is like, I just don't know when he would ever be like, when do you ever feel good about starting him? He's not playing a lot of snaps. He's making things happen when he's touching the ball, but I don't know if you can really trust that. He's still going to play behind Sutton and Judy. Gallup finally had a decent, 7 targets, 6 grabs, 92 yards. That was positive. Maybe you hang on one more time. Van Jefferson, no. KJ Osborne's no, even though back-to-back weeks, and he is playing over Addison, but no. Robert Woods, was a small floor there, but a lot of the names that I've mentioned before, I would definitely drop. And, I like Robert Woods a touch more than some of those guys. But the question here is DJ Chark, is that sustainable? And I don't think that it is, because I think the quarterback, we'll see Bryce Young again, and that's what will happen. One last one here. Sweet chili to Ritter. A bag of sweet chili, Dorito. That guy would never give up the purple bag. Never give up the purple bag. It's jokes. All right, guys, I think we're out of here. You have any questions, hit me up. Actually, you know what? There's one more thing I'll do, because I don't think we're only going to have a hockey episode tomorrow. So let's look ahead. Let's do one more thing here and look ahead at some quarterback streamers for you guys. We'll go week 4. We'll take a look at maybe some streaming options at the quarterback position to kind of help you guys out, because Anthony Richardson may not play. I don't know. Joe Burrow suffers setbacks, something like that. Geno Smith probably owns 78% ownership against the Giants. Matthew Stafford against the Colts, 56%. He's just chucking. Stroud has got a tough spot against the Steelers at ownership at 20%. Russell Wilson, say what you want about the Broncos, but Russ has actually looked okay. Back-to-back games of 300 passing yards. He's got 6 passing touchdowns. I don't think he had 6 passing touchdowns at this point last year. He's got the matchup against the Bears, so that's a streaming option that I can definitely get behind. Kenny Pickett, I'm not going there. I'm not starting Baker against the Saints. You're dropping Bryce Young. Kenny Pickett, I'm not interested in. So there's not a lot of, hopefully you're just fine at the quarterback position, but maybe you were, maybe you had Derek Carr. I don't know how deep your league is. This possible, something like that. Sam Howell against Philly at Philly. Don't love it. Not great. And Tannehill, you're not doing. Zach, you're not doing. Mac Jones against Dallas is not ideal either. So I would just be taking a look at, top of the list would be Geno. And after that would be Stafford, Russell Wilson. I think Russell's a pretty good streaming option. Defenses, kickers, you're just rolling. You guys are on your own when it comes to kickers. You just roll out high total games. I look at high total games. I look at domes. I stay away from weather stuff. And you do want some offenses that are going to stall. I think now, like, I don't know if I said this earlier, but we will dive into some buy lows and things. And just want to take a look at some of the data. 3 weeks is a good sample size of what teams are doing and the offenses that they're running and the rush percentage and the pass percentage, all those things. The Saints defense, only 65% ownership. I drafted them everywhere. I've been super, super pleased. 10, 7, and 10 points. They got Tampa this week. After that, they got New England, Houston, Jacksonville. Those seem like plus matchups. The Colts, they got the Bears, they got the Vikings. After the bye, they got Atlanta, Detroit, Carolina. They got the Giants week 15. Like, it's a really good schedule. In fact, I think it's the easiest schedule. It's the softest schedule. This is part of why we had the Saints winning that division. The Saints should be rostered. I view them as a top 10 defense the rest of the way. 65% against the Bucs next week. Pittsburgh, their ownership's only 70%. I'm really shocked about that as well. 4 points in week 1, but it was San Fran, 26 Cleveland, 11. They got the Texans. Even I'd play them against Baltimore. I play them against every team in the NFL. And they got a pretty good schedule. Like Houston, for sure, you're playing. Baltimore, I have no problem playing against Baltimore. The Rams, yeah. Jacksonville, Titans for sure. Green Bay, yeah. Cleveland, Cincy, Arizona, New England. It's a really good schedule for them. Pittsburgh and New Orleans are not streaming options. Their defense you can start every single week. The streaming option may be the Chargers. The Chargers have a matchup against the Raiders. Jimmy G is a statue. Cleveland against Baltimore. Cleveland's got a good defense. Right? They're getting some sacks. They got 9 sacks already on the season. So they're a streaming option. Minnesota against Carolina. I know it's the Vikings. It's like a deep league, last resort kind of deal. But if it's Dalton, even still like it. But if it's Bryce Young, definitely like it. Even though it's the Vikings, definitely like it. You hope that they can get some sacks. To get 6 sacks there. They're giving up some points. But, CJ Stroud hasn't turned the ball over too much. The offensive line's not that great. But you do want a defense that's going to go up against a team that's going to pass. You don't want a defense that's going to go up against a team that's just going to run and play at a slow pace the entire game. You want a defense. You want, of course, in perfect world, you want a defense that you feel like is going to be up in the game and then they can really dial up the pressure, and especially some third down situations. But if you think it's going to be a pass happy offense, maybe you can get some sacks that way or create some turnovers. We have a pick or something like that. The Bengals may be a good defense against the Titans next week. Having said that, a Titans team that wants to run the football, but Tannehill's good for a pick or two. Man, that guy is just not look good at the moment. Bucks may be a good one actually as well. They're probably going to be available. Nobody's playing them this week against the Eagles. They were dropped, 11% ownership drop, hanging around in like 70% of Yahoo leagues. They got the Saints next week, so it could be a little bit of famous Jameis under center. If they go Taysom Hill, then I probably wouldn't go that way. I don't think there'll be a lot of pass attempts. Man, Taysom Hill would be really bad for Chris Olave and company. I think Jameis, man, Derek Carr was going to Olave and was going to Thomas. I don't want to put too much into yesterday, but they obviously punted like every drive in the second half. James kind of thrown in there, not prepared. I wouldn't worry too much about the weapons in New Orleans, but it is a slight downtick. I like Carr as a passing quarterback. Okay, that's it. Giants not doing it. Rams against the Colts. That's an option. A streaming option. You're not going to go Chicago. Do you dare roll out Denver? Like, why are they 40% ownership? They've given up 17 points, 35 points, and 70 points. They got 4 sacks and 1 pick. You might want to roll them out. Maybe it's a bounce back. They got embarrassed. Maybe they bounce back against Justin Fields and company. But again, Fields doesn't throw the ball down the field, so you may not get a lot of picks there. All right, guys, we're out of here. Appreciate the time, hanging out, looking for the picks, looking for the props. At the start of the show, we dove into a bunch of that stuff. Waiver wire rankings, running back rankings. I could hang out with you guys all day, but we gotta get ready. It's game time here. It's game time. Birds win, Bucks cover, field goal game, maybe Jake Elliott walk off, and I think the Rams win the game tonight. I picked the Bengals. I wasn't sure about Joe Burrow. I thought Burrow was going to play. It sounds like Burrow's going to play, but I kind of have the lean to the Rams maybe pulling this one out. Puka Nakua and company. Good luck, guys. All waiver wire claims. Hit me up at Chris Meany. Any questions? Comment section here. Smash the like button. Do me a solid. Smash the like button. Rate, review, subscribe to iTunes and Spotify. And I know I probably sound like a broken record, so we'll try to reach out to some friends of the show, and we'll get some other people on here to give some different takes and give you a little bit of a different spin when it comes to fantasy football. So look for that in the coming days. Have a good one, guys. Good luck with all the picks and props and all your matchups. We'll talk to you on Wednesday. Cheers.